Hey, we're back.
Welcome to Moral Relatives.
Here we are again. Hey, just a real quick recap, just so you're on the same page as us. We kind of started with creation, and we're looking at the book of Genesis and how God created everything, and talking about creation, how it kind of had to happen, and then we went from there, the fall, sin, and how sin entered the world, and one of those things that happened because of that was that Adam and Eve recognized that they were naked. So we thought today we'd kind of talk about the concept of gender and sexuality and how important that is for us, and maybe have some discussion on that. Sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Where did you want to start?
Well, I wanted to start with just the way we kind of ended about how we're made in the image and likeness of God. And because we're made in the image and likeness of God, we've been kind of given control and that God created us. I have a question for you. How come people have a hard time recognizing that we were created? And when I wrote that question, I started thinking to myself, all right, I'm going to come from the side that God created us because I'm a Christian and that's my training and that's my understanding. But what would you say to that about how come people don't have this respect for creation because they don't, I don't know, do they not think they're created?
Well, interesting word choice of saying that that's your training, because I think in the same way it's their training to be atheistic or at least scientific. And I don't know. I think if you look into science is just the exploration of how to explain the God phenomenon. It's not like outside of God.
Yeah, but
it's just trying to figure out how we can better understand it.
But haven't we kind of talked about in our short time doing this that there's a being sense and a soul sense, right? How do people not have a respect for creation? And I'm just not talking about human beings. I'm talking about all creation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, I think, later on, again, kind of a little hint of that, right? How come people have such a hard time just kind of accepting creation has come from someplace and therefore we have some sort of purpose to be here?
I don't know. I guess I don't know that people don't think that they're not created. I just don't think that there's... I think you're talking about the lack of sacredness attached to it.
I am. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So what's the purpose? What's if there's not sacredness attached to it? What's our purpose? I mean, and sacred can be defined in lots of different things, I think. But sacred is that I think sacred rises our understanding to a different level. So people don't even rise to that different level. What are they missing in the sacredness? You mentioned the word sacredness, so I'm going to kind of stick with that word.
Yeah, I don't know. Jesus was I am that I am, but nowadays it is what it is, right? And that's
but that's my point.
That's their training. That's part of their training is it is what it is. It's just like this kind of low-level defeatist, not overtly punching you in the face, but just saying be passive, take it as it is, rather than what God is really calling you to do is take control of your life, be the creator, and do the things that you want to see happen.
And what are those things? I mean, that's my point I'm trying to get to. Aren't those things supposed to be holy? Aren't those things, and I know that's kind of a word we can define one way or the other, but,
It's a substitute for sacred, right?
Okay, yeah, it is a substitute for that, but so aren't we supposed to raise ourselves to that level? Okay, let me go on to the next little part, if you're ready. All right? So, before the fall, I'm kind of reading a little snippet from that book I talked to you about that Thomas Merton wrote, and he said, before the fall, Adam was joyous in his care for the garden, right? But after the fall, it became a burden. And this burden, according to what Merton says, included our being and our being is our sexuality. Our being is our gender. So Adam became concerned about that after the fall. So what's that connection between sin, the fall, and our sexuality? Why is that even a thing?
Can I make a comparison to like a young boy in puberty now having responsibility and being like, ugh, whereas like some task would have been the same task, but they're a kid, so they're excited about it. They're like joyous. They're like into just doing something.
Okay.
And then at some point we have this like, and it comes along with this sexual urges that start to emerge, but like this just like, I don't want to be responsible. The shrug of the shoulders kind of lazy teen, right?
Okay.
Starts to emerge, and I think that kind of echoes like our conscious journey as well. We start to like get overwhelmed maybe with our responsibility, or realize like, oh, I keep doing stuff but nothing changes, so why do I have to keep doing stuff? Or that mentality starts to creep in, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
So I guess my question was, from that, only came into being after Adam, and now we have this gender. So I guess my question is, why is so people hung up on gender? It is what it is. I mean, it's just what it is.
It is what it is.
Do you know what I mean? But people are always like, you got. I read just the other day, and something came across that said this young person, I have no idea what gender they were, but they were saying that they're like 3 different genders at once. And that even had a name. I don't remember what the name. You know the name of that?
Gray sexual?
Was that what it was? Gray sexual? All right. So what the heck is that? I mean, why do you have to worry about it so much? Just let it be what it is.
Well, yeah. Okay, well, here's my kind of take on that whole movement. I think because we're living in this scientific material world and the sacred has been taken out of it, right? I think these people still feel that urge, that like merging of the divine masculine and divine feminine, which we have to do when we enter consciousness. This yin yang has to swirl, and we have to find the balance between it. They're like doing that journey, but they have no context of spirituality or that sense of this is like a transmutation that should happen within me, right? Or transubstantiation, right? Is literally communion is the communing of the opposites and you balancing them. Right?
Okay, so
but they have no context for that in this atheistic kind of lens that they've grown up with, or they're like religious in a very conservative way, so it doesn't like get to, sexuality is super restrictive, which only makes the desire to explore it more ridiculous.
Become greater. Yeah.
So
one of the things they say about it's so much more fun to be a sinner than not be a sinner. And I think that kind of starts playing into that a little bit. If something that's taboo, you say, "Oh, I want to check that out because that's taboo."
Well,
it becomes a little more attractive.
That the more fun thing, as you say, is to go against God.
I think
is that more fun, more appealing to people?
Well, because I think it goes back. I think you said this maybe even in our first episode, how people strive to be God. So I think it's more fun because they want to see what they can get away with. How can I be?
Can I manipulate people?
How can I be God? Right? How can I be a God? Mm-hmm. One of the things that I also read is, God is love, and we talked a little bit about love. I think last week. That our word for love is not as good as other countries' words for love or other places' words for love. We have kind of one word that we use for everything. But if we ground ourselves in God's love, right, then we kind of become at peace. Our identity it becomes at peace, and we're confident in that identity. But when we can't even become comfortable in that love, our identity kind of suffers from that. Here's my take on that. I see so many people trying to change themselves with, gosh, I hate using examples because you always yell at me when I do, but like examples like
Depends on the example.
they and I really don't care about these things. I don't care what people do, as long as they don't really hurt themselves doing it. Like the color of their hair, the number of tattoos they have, the piercings they have, gauging your ears. Everyone's striving to change themselves instead of allow themselves to accept who they are. And is that because society doesn't accept who they are, so they recognize that? Like, oh my gosh, I got to be like this. I have to have this color hair. Because if I have this color hair, it's going to make me better. Or I have to have this tattoo in this place. Or I have to pierce this part of my body because then I'll be unique and then everyone will like me and that's my identity. Is it really your identity?
Well, it's the irony of like conforming by being unique.
Conforming.
Everybody wants to like be, alternative, but then you look up and everybody looks exactly. If everybody's alternative, that's not.
Well, that's the point.
So ultimately, what they're doing is by trying to distinguish themselves, they're really like seeking a group. They're seeking affirmation.
But they have that. That's what we get back to. God loves them.
They don't feel that. That's why.
So how do we get them to feel that? Because it's there for them. God's going to love them, right? There's a quote. I'm going to quote some scripture today, and then ask you some questions about it. In 1 John, which isn't the gospel, but it's a letter that John wrote. 1 John, it says. Chapter 3, verse 1. See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that's what we are. These people say, "Well, who do I belong to?" I don't belong to any groups. So I need to color my hair this color or put this piercing in this place, and like I said, I don't care if people do that as long as they don't hurt themselves. If you want to be creative, be creative. But I struggle with the people that are doing it to be accepted when they're already accepted because God loves them, and I'm a Christian, so therefore I love them. Mm-hmm. So
they might just like also, people have tastes, and like if we're gonna live in this milieu of personas, like why can't they, cater theirs to their interests?
Okay,
and
I'm trying to.
I don't know. Like, if you want to like do the whole like we should completely separate from the idea of persona, then we could play that game. But like, if you want to keep living in this world of we have to wear these masks and fit in with these people and make choices like that, then it's all just different colors.
Okay.
They're, different.
So we're
patterns.
We're talking about external things that people do to fit in, pretty much, right? So I want to now. I think I want to go.
What I think it is that is replacing this ultimate thing that everybody kind of feels, the dissonance of I'm, in the material world, but there's a higher purpose. There's a spiritual aspect to this as well, but they don't recognize that that's what they're seeking. And they've been funneled to these other,
They've been funneled. Who's funneling them? Society?
Corporate interests, of course.
Corporate interests.
Yeah, everybody's here to make a buck.
So you remember that?
I think there's a huge investment in that movement you're speaking of in recent years, and then a huge growth in it as well.
Do you remember a video I showed you a long time ago when you were probably in middle school? That was called The Merchants of Cool. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they did was they would plant someone outside, who the Clown Posse, what was the name of that group? Insane Clown Posse. Sure. That was a concert that people would kind of...
Rainbow Gathering, ironically, a different group of people who claim the rainbow.
Okay, I don't understand that, but explain that to me.
The LGBTQ community that claims the rainbow, right?
Yes.
And then the Insane Clown Posse, their main gathering of the Juggalos is called the Rainbow Gathering,
Okay.
I believe.
I didn't know that.
And so it's just kind of like people bastardizing the rainbow on purpose. I'm not saying that like gay people are bastardizing. I'm saying the movements have been taken over to kind of bastardize these symbols. It's called pride, and that's one of the 7 deadly sins. I'm not saying like they shouldn't be, if this is how they feel, that's, we should be comfortable in all situations with whoever we are. That should be fundamental. But I think the idea of putting words like pride onto it is a very interesting choice.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about. That makes some sense. I'm going to talk about that.
I say all this with love, of course. I'm just trying to understand
I think
bigger things at play too.
If there's one thing that we can agree on, I think it's that. We're not here to judge. I'm not in charge of judging. I'd rather just people think and make their own choices. I'm going to stick with my values because my values are my values. And I've already made did my homework in terms of that. But I'm not going to tell anybody else. I'm not going to judge anybody else in terms of that. All right.
Can I just say real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the idea of humans have words, so we don't have to fight actual wars. We could fight wars of concepts, wars of ideas. Like that's the space to actually do constructive battle. Like there needs to be.
But who are they fighting against?
Well, I'm just saying ideas can fight against each other in this space, and that's a safe place for people to like go against each other without actually making destruction happen, like conversation. And so that's kind of what this is all about.
I absolutely agree with you that when someone chooses to, color their hair or pierce this or even come out as the opposite sex, that those choices don't harm anybody. I think to some extent they harm society a little bit because I'm still gonna say that there's always a right and a wrong, and sometimes the line can get pushed too far. Like even nowadays today with this, these people that make AI lovers, sure. That's pushing the line pretty far. But I want to ask you a question about that little verse that we're created in God's image and God loves us. If what's the opposite of that? Are we a mistake? Are we a mistake? We're a mistake, so we got to fix it. What do you do with mistakes? You fix mistakes, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's ultimately, a Gnostic might argue that the demiurge created us, and now we have to, rectify that. And then other people have other things to say. But I think, sorry, I lost my point there.
That's good. But tell me that word
demiurge?
Yeah, what's that word mean?
Oh, okay. So there's this school of thought that like the God of the Jehovah God is actually kind of like this this false God, this fallen angel who thought he could also be God and then created this world which ended up being not perfect, whereas God would have created a perfect world. So this is basically a fallen angel's realm rather than, but like it has more to do with like we're this soul that isn't part of this material, and it like the idea is to get all the souls back to out of the earth and back there.
Well, I mean
that's that school of thought.
Well,
there are parts of it I'll take and leave.
Yeah, there's certainly that's one of the goals is to get back to God, But when we going back to that thing about sinning, where we distanced ourselves from God, and we became ashamed, and we found out we were naked, and then all of a sudden we have this separation between soul and body. I guess going down this path towards gender and sexuality, we're talking a lot about that side of the coin, the body side of the coin, not so much the soul side of the coin, but we can't just go down the body side of the realm without remembering that there's a soul side. Mm-hmm. Do you think that a lot of I want to say young people, whatever age people, do you think that a lot of people who change themselves to try to fit in or to try to become unique or to find themselves, whatever you want to say. Do you think they do that forgetting about their soul, the part that God loves you unconditionally?
I think it's more just fitting in. You remember when you had long hair in the 70s and people were wearing bell bottoms because they thought they looked cool? Like everybody has their things that they're into, and right now it's this thing. But I
So you think it will
to do-
change then?
I think it's like generations of sex sells and like Baywatch and all. Like it's not like it's a slow burn of just like hypersexualizing, and now they've done this like weird twist where people are like not really sexual. I don't know if you've noticed, like the next generation is very muted in their sexuality.
Right. Is that why they start all those different pronouns things?
Well, I think it's this androgyny kind of that comes from us seeking to rectify the opposites without some sort of alchemical path to do that.
So
Some spiritual path to do it.
And what would that get them back to?
Well, they're lost. That's the problem. Is they're being funneled as consumers because they don't have a higher thing aside from that.
Okay. I want to go back to last week. I think you talked about the Buddha and leaving the palace, and one of the things the Buddha did. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Is that he wandered, and he tried to do this, he tried to do that, he tried to do this, he tried to do that, and then finally he just sat under a tree and said, "I got to just do this myself. I've got to center myself. I got to find this thing, enlightenment." Right? He went all out. I think he went all down. Am I right? He went all down these paths to try to figure it out.
I mean, can I tell you kind of like the purpose of that?
Sure.
Is that you can't help others until yourself is centered. He was trying to help people, but he wasn't yet the Buddha.
Sure. But
you got to really like align yourself and know that what you're actually preaching is worth preaching before you start preaching at people.
Am I preaching at people?
No, I'm not. Just speaking in general, like whether you're preaching just like your politics or whatever you're doing to whoever, like maybe sit under the tree and really have a think first before you start projecting onto others. I think that's the message of that.
Okay. So that makes me beg the question. Would that be the soul side of our lives to find that inner sense?
Well, yeah, once you find that you are your soul, you realize you're not this other thing, nor is anybody else who's offending you. So there's nothing to be too concerned about. So love is a great answer.
So why are all these people, I hate to use this cliche, but looking for love in all the wrong places? Why don't they just go find it within themselves, right? And then they'll be a lot more comfortable. You know this. I think you know this saying because I know you grew up. I know how you grew up, right? And you heard the saying that from Saint Augustine that our hearts were burning until they kind of our hearts are on fire until we find God. We have this empty hole in ourselves. Our hearts are on fire
for sure.
Until we find God. So you think that that's true?
I think we're ultimately all kind of seeking this other thing. A lot of people think it's love in a relationship sense. Some people think it's love in a more divine sense. Some people think it's just being part of something, or some people will put it onto more material things like having money and cars and whatever. But the void is the thing that we're all trying to. That's the thing that makes us. The circle isn't complete.
I think why I kind of talk about this stuff personally is because I'm so sad about it. I'm so disheartened about it that these people feel that they I don't know, they just don't. They think that's the way to be loved, and yet they try this path and they try that path and they try this path and they try that path. I mean, from simple things like dyeing your hair to making a tattoo, those simple things, to doing drugs, to drinking all the time, to hanging out all the time and getting stoned, whatever.
If you want to get to more the core, I think what you're ultimately going to want to talk about is the loss of like the family unit. And like I really kind of wanted to talk about more so the Trinity. I like to think of it not so much as a duality, but like when we add sexuality, it's a Trinity. There's, the pattern, and then there's the matter or the space in which things can happen, and then there's the actual creation. There's the father and the mother and the child. There's the proton and electron and the neutron. Like it takes this three kind of magical balance in order to like it's not. I think we should talk about the three. Is what I'm getting at.
Okay. Well, having said that,
and like the loss of maybe like the kind of the traditional family unit, like has an impact on our balance as well.
all right. So, do you know that in our tradition, our Catholic Christian tradition, we believe, I don't want to get to marriage yet, but I think it fits in here, but marriage is a sacrament, and that sacrament has to take place in church. And the reason it has to take place in church is because God's present there too. So, yeah, this person Dan is marrying this person Margaret, but God's there too. God's a third member of that bond, of that covenant. That's the Trinity.
In that sense, it'll be the Holy Spirit. It's not necessarily the creation yet, but like it's that.
Yeah. But God's a part of that. That's why we find that to be so important. Because if God's not a part of that, then it could destroy itself. It could break up. It could be there's no responsibility to I don't know how to say this, but it just could destroy itself. So what you're saying is really true in terms of that. So why don't people do that? Why do people, and I'm not saying...
Well, it's all back to the responsibility and the huff and puff of the teenager just being like, I got to do it. I think that's a big part of it.
Do you think
I
that...
think people give themselves the easy way out a lot of times, too.
Yeah. You've heard this phrase that a wedding is a day and a marriage is a lifetime?
Well, one would hope.
So, but do people really go into it that way? Do they look at it that way? Because a marriage, there's a lot of give and take, and there's a lot of necessary prayer going on there, and there's a lot of like, I can't do this just by myself. I need God to be with me and my spouse, and the spouse says, I need God to be with me and my spouse.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of emphasis on the wedding, and not so much about the rest, which is like your point, I think.
Yes, it is my point.
When you think of marriage, if you type in marriage photos, I'm sure most of them are going to be weddings, and then maybe you'll see like an old couple on a bench holding hands.
There you go.
But like,
there you go. I wanted to get to this point about, ultimately, I'm going to read this little quote from this this thing I found that says, in the context of sexuality and gender, love and respect should be at the forefront of all of our relationships. The Bible tells us that we are to love one another deeply, just as Christ loves us. This love is expressed not just in feelings, but also in actions and attitudes, how we treat people. Respecting each other's identity and experience is essential in mirroring God's love. I read that and I was like, yeah. If we are created in God's image, then we need to look at that person as a holy person, and that person is a godly person. All right? So, what do you think about that?
So perhaps like not judging all these other people's experiences,
Which
or projecting yourself onto them,
right,
is essential.
Which is why I find it hard to. Which is why I find it hard to, to have said what I said before about a person's color hair or how many tattoos they have. I really don't care. Like I said, unless they hurting themselves. Mm-hmm. But what are they seeking? What are they seeking externally that they can't find internally? And how can we help them find that? So basically I'm trying to say stuff like, here's the rub. Here's my question. No matter what we think about sexuality and gender, no matter what we think about it, ultimately, we're to love one another deeply, respecting each other's identity, because that's how we mirror God's love. That's how we mirror God's love. We need to do that. I guess my question, is there a limit to that? Is that just ultimate, or is there a limit to that? How do we mirror that aspect?
I think I would look at it from the other way. Like, the world is mirroring you. You're projecting all of the world onto things.
No,
yes, there are other players involved, but like, it's all light reflecting back into your eyes, and then your eyes deciding what to do with it. It's all like perception. I believe I've heard you say, like, I can't offend you. You can choose to get offended, right?
Yes.
It's that same kind of idea of like, the world is doing what you're asking it to in an ultimate sense.
I guess that.
So if you want to mirror God's love, that's what you got to send out, and that's what's going to hit back.
It's kind of like I tend to disagree with you on this a little bit, because I know that the world is shooting stuff at us this way, and sometimes we have to have a force field shield to block stuff off, but we don't.
That stuff is God, though.
Is it though?
Isn't it?
No, because
we're all God's creation. We're all children of God. All that stuff.
But people don't
God's
have good
stuff
intentions
still.
and all that stuff.
Yeah, but
there's a lot of not good intentions.
Is their soul struggle, but the stuff that always hits us and we send out is always God. It has to be. The whole thing.
Why? Why? I can't agree with you.
All creation is in its image. Right.
Okay. Yes. In the beginning, but then we sinned, and
it's splitting itself is still itself.
Yeah, but it's not right. It's
It's not complete.
No, it's bad.
But it's still itself.
Yeah, it's something for sure, but it's not
good, right?
No, it's not good. It's bad.
It's our mirror. It's our reaction to things that make it good or evil, because we're like in a perceptive state. All the stuff that's happening is God. Is that not true?
I can't, because I think there's evil in the world.
Also, all is mind.
No,
right?
but I think there's evil in the world,
that's happening
and
here.
Because there's evil in the world, I think that there's darkness. There's darkness and evil, and there's bad people and there's bad actors, and sometimes they throw stuff this way. If I don't agree with someone, morally, it's because their values don't sync with my values. Yet they're throwing their values at me, and I think their values are wrong. Right. Just flat out
you
wrong.
Are projecting that their values are wrong.
Yes, and I think they are wrong.
That's what I'm getting at.
But I think they are wrong. Can't they be wrong?
How are you gonna say? Like, we're all like players in the, like, two fish in a cup can't talk about the ocean, as Zheng Zhu said. We don't know what. We have to kind of take a little bit of humble pie when we're talking about these things as well. I think what you're getting at, we need the respect and sanctity reattached to it, but I don't think you should, be so harsh to those who are getting led astray when
I hear what you're saying. I don't think I do. I know this stuff is coming at me, but I have choices to accept that stuff or not accept that stuff, right? And that's where it gets to me. That's where I try to understand. That's where I separate, the goats from the sheep, if you will. There's some goats out there, and I don't want people to follow those goats. I want them to. And I'm saying the goats are the bad side, the sheep are the good side. But I want them to do that. I'm not judging those goats.
That's exactly what you did.
No, I'm not judging those goats.
Discriminating against them.
No, they are who they are. But I don't have to be that. That's what I mean. But I don't judge them and say. I try to, as a Christian, I try to show them what I believe to be the better way, the holier way, the soul way, right? But I don't judge them. I don't say stop. I just don't judge them. Mm-hmm. But you think I do?
Well, no, I think. Well, yes, of course. I think it's absolutely you do. But like whether that's right or wrong, that's a different kind of thing. I think the best way to bring them back into the fold is what I think your goal is, right? Is to show them that maybe what they're seeking is not a physical thing. It's a spiritual thing, and get them unattached to this idea that, we're the vessel and not the soul. I think that's the best route, right?
We're the vessel and not the soul.
No, we are not the vessel.
We're not the vessel. We're the soul. We're the soul. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
Animating it. Don't get attached to the vessel.
Because it's all about the soul.
Right, because the soul is the God thing.
Right. But people get attached to the vessel because they're always like, people,
That's the struggle of.
I can't be this, so I have to do that because I have to be that because if I'm this, then people don't like me, so I have to be that because that's more accepted, and and they get so hung up on this this external thing that they almost lose their soul in a sense.
Right. So imagine like that's the duality spinning round and round, but then when you add that third aspect of this God, higher power, whatever you need to call it, then you have a triangle which is stable no matter how you turn it. If you want to look at it geometrically, like
isn't that old saying that a stool needs three things, right? A
stool needs three legs, exactly. That's not, nature down here doesn't work like that on accident.
I agree. I agree with that. All right. So how does this relate to this whole concept of sexuality and gender? To me, I think it kind of like people put way too much emphasis on the sexuality part. Let me try to give you an example as best I could. Sometimes we get to watch things on TV and we kind of binge watch them, right? So, and I'm not going to name any shows or anything like that. I'm just going to say we binged watched some shows, and what they were projecting, I don't think is reality, but yet they project it, and people think it is reality, right? They think, I'm this age, and I should be doing this because that's what people this age do, right? And if I'm not doing that, then I'm not going to be loved and accepted. So I better go do that. And I think that's a false dichotomy, man. I think that the tube media, people aren't discerning enough to look at that and say that's not real. What?
No, she's just calm down. Oh, we'll go as long as we need to. I think that's exactly what I was talking about. This consumer takeover of this exploitable aspect.
Yes. But we still have to be of this world. That's why I would much prefer to watch it and make a determination about it than to kind of say, I can't watch that because, it talks about this, that, and the other thing, and I'm going to be a sinner if I watch that. Nonsense. I'm not going to be a sinner if I watch that. I want to watch that because I want to know about the world. I want to know what's going on what people are thinking, what people are.
Is that going into the darkness and not being attached to it?
Yeah, yeah. What was that for?
That's from the last episode.
All right, so we're making some connections here. That's pretty keen, I guess. So how do you think that people do watch these shows? I mean, everyone knows what shows they are. Everyone knows. People talk to each other and say, "Oh, you got to binge watch this," or have you seen that? That's really cool. Did you watch that? Wow, that was really great. They're thrown at other people to kind of say, that's how we learn about them. I don't go seek them out, but people tell me, hey, have you seen this? We like it. It's pretty good, kind of thing. So we'll watch it and we'll make a determination. Some I've actually turned off. I said, yeah, no. I forget the name of that one that I turned off. I'm not going to mention names. Sorry. So why do people have to do this why do they think it's real? Because are they missing the God part?
No, I don't think they think it's as real as you think they think it's real. But also, I think,
really?
Yeah. I think everybody kind of knows TV is TV. I think where it gets weird is when now there's like TikToks and YouTubes and stuff. And that's like when it's up there,
But that's
on Netflix, we know it's produced.
But that's why. But they're mimicking it.
A little bit blurred.
They're mimicking it and trying to kind of push that envelope. They see what they see, and
But also, all those people who are emulating that are just trying to get their way to the money that's.
I know.
It's not like their true values. I bet.
But it sells.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's the maybe it's the consumer-based motive that's. I don't know. I heard sex sells so many times in my young life.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, it was
In what context? Like
just all the time. Oh, just like advertisement, sex sells on TV shows or movies or whatever. Like you heard that phrase all the time, and it obviously was proving true when I looked around as well. So there was a. But why are we like tricked into thinking that the like second of an orgasm is way more enticing than the like blooming of a relationship? Right? Where's
wow? I don't know. Wow, that's a pretty interesting statement there.
I'm full of this.
Are you? That was a good one. I like that one. But that's what we kind of sell our kids. It makes me think of I told our a group of kids that I was teaching. I was teaching morality. So I was talking to them about. I said, I have to make choices of things that I can't allow myself to do because I think they're not moral. And one of them was I didn't go to this restaurant that kind of I thought exploited women. And I think they do exploit women. I think that's and it's about the sex, and the sex sells chicken wings. And I think it's ridiculous. But many of those students were saying, "Wow, now you're going to make me go there because I want to support them because it's not about sex; it's about the food." I'm like, no, it's not. And those are those young people that you talked about earlier that. Teenagers, and they gotta be teenagers because that's what teenagers do to, push the limits of life in terms of that.
And then adults get trapped in that mentality, and
those are the ones
the easiest to push into a.
Those are the ones hold your microphone up. Those are the ones I worry. Those are the ones I worry about the most. The ones that do it. All right, how long have we gone? About 45 minutes. Yeah, we wanted to try to make this 45 minutes. Feedback we got from people is make it a little bit shorter. And
read that first three.
Oh yeah, this is my next.
No, just read the first three letters.
The first three words, you mean?
Yeah, words. Yeah.
All right. Love is patient. 1 Corinthians.
Guys, sometimes you got to really talk things out. Go down alleys to go back to an alley. So. Thanks for being patient with our long conversations.
Yes, thank you for that.
It's important to not just, say catchphrases, but really ask questions and then dive into them.
Yeah,
and
and like we said earlier, let people think. If you're walking away with a question, I'm good with that.
Also, you can leave any questions in the comments. Maybe we'll answer them next week.
Yeah, that would be cool.
At some point.
We haven't had a lot of interaction with our audience yet, so we would definitely appreciate that, to do that. Gosh, we appreciate you watching the video. To tell you the truth, we do this all the time. We have dinner together, and then all of a sudden, this happens, and the one son walks that way, the one son shakes his head. The mother's like, calm down, everyone. And so that's why we thought this would be good. So thanks for listening. So, English Premier League started this week. You have any good names for me to try to pronounce? One of the things that my beautiful children like to do is kind of shake their head at me when I mispronounce things.
Like gender?
Like gender. There we go. Exactly. So
Wasn't going to mention it until the end.
Well, thanks for sharing that with our audience. I grew up in New York City, so that's the way I talk. Sorry. All right, let's have a name here. You got one for me? All right, this guy. Oh my goodness. Well, his first name's Victor. That's pretty easy. His second name is Jaikaris?
Victor Gokares.
Gokares. All right, sorry, Victor.
Gokares.
Sorry, Victor. I saw the GY. And I thought of a gyro, like a sandwich. So that's the avenue I went down. So Riccardo Calafiore.
Nailed it.
Oh, there we go.
Gotta give him one.
Gotta give me one. I appreciate it. All right. Thanks for listening to us. I hope you enjoy it. Leave comments for us, man. We really appreciate hearing from you, our audience. And press that subscribe and like button, too. I think that's important. Right?
Yep.
I don't know much about that stuff, but that's what they tell me.
Cool. Yep.
That's it.
And we'll keep making movies.
There we go. All right. God bless.
Make good choices.